A former slot machine programmer just revealed something about dollar spins that could change everything you thought you knew about slot machines. And honestly, when I first heard this, I couldn't believe casinos were allowed to get away with it. This information has been verified by multiple casino insiders, and what you're about to learn could save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars the next time you walk into a casino. Casinos actively hide this information because the moment players understand what's really happening with dollar denomination machines, their entire business model for these games falls apart. Make sure you're subscribed because what I'm about to share comes directly from internal reports, former employees, and industry documentation that was never meant to reach the general public. This is about something specific to dollar spins that millions of people simply don't understand. And by the end of this video, you're going to see slot machines in a completely different light. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael was a regular at a casino in Las Vegas, and for years he'd been playing penny slots, usually betting about 50 cents per spin. He'd have good nights and bad nights, but generally, he could play for several hours on a $200 or $300 bankroll. Then one day a floor manager approached him with what seemed like friendly advice. The manager told him that if he really wanted to win big, he needed to move up to dollar denominations because, according to this manager, the higher denomination machines had better payout percentages. Michael had heard this before from other players, and it seemed to make sense. After all, why wouldn't the casino reward people who bet more money? So Michael decided to take the advice. He switched from his usual penny slots to dollar denomination machines, specifically Buffalo Gold at the dollar level. He brought his normal $300 bankroll, sat down at the machine with confidence, and started spinning at $5 per spin. What happened next was devastating. In less than an hour, Michael's entire $300 was gone. He hadn't hit a single significant bonus. He'd seen a few small wins here and there, but nothing that even came close to sustaining his bankroll. Confused and frustrated, he went to the ATM and pulled out another $300, thinking he'd just hit a bad streak. 90 minutes later, that money was gone too. By the end of the session, Michael had lost $3,000, which was more than he'd ever lost in a single visit to the casino. He walked out of there feeling sick, trying to figure out what had gone wrong, wondering if he'd just experienced the worst luck of his life. But here's what Michael didn't know, and here's what millions of slot players don't understand about dollar denomination machines. According to internal casino data reviewed by former slot technicians, the return to player percentage on dollar denomination slots is often identical to the penny denomination versions of the exact same game. That Buffalo Gold machine Michael played at a dollar denomination, former technicians reported has an RTP between 86 and 88%. The penny version of Buffalo Gold, the exact same RTP, 86 to 88%. The only actual difference between these two machines is that Michael was betting 10 times more money per spin for literally the exact same odds of winning. Let me break down the mathematics of what happened to Michael, because this is crucial to understanding why dollar denominations are so dangerous. When Michael was playing penny slots at 50 cents per spin, 100 spins would cost him $50 in total wagers. He could run through 100 spins, see some bonuses, get some hits, and his bankroll would last. But at the dollar denomination, betting $5 per spin, those same 100 spins cost him $500. The return to player percentage didn't change. The game's mathematics didn't change. The bonus frequency didn't change. The only thing that changed was the speed at which Michael's money disappeared from his bankroll. He wasn't getting better odds at all. He was just losing his money 10 times faster than he had been on the penny machines. And here's what makes this even worse, according to industry insiders. Casinos actively encourage this belief that higher denominations mean better odds. Former floor managers have reported that they were specifically trained to approach players and suggest moving up in denomination. The language they were taught to use included phrases like better payout percentages and serious players play higher denominations. Documentation shows that casinos make significantly more money when players increase their denomination while maintaining the same amount of playing time, because the house edge extracts money from the player at a dramatically faster rate. A player who would normally lose $36 per hour on penny slots will lose $360 per hour on dollar slots with the same RTP, simply because they're cycling 10 times more money through the machine in the same period of time. But here's what makes this even worse, and this is something that's going to shock you. There's a specific type of dollar denomination machine that former employees say is designed to make you think you're winning when you're actually losing. And the psychological manipulation involved in these machines is something that even experienced players don't recognize until it's too late. This concept is called losses disguised as wins. And according to former slot technicians, it's one of the most psychologically manipulative features programmed into modern slot machines. Here's how it works. You sit down at a machine, you bet $5 on a spin, the reels spin and land on a combination that triggers the machine's celebration sounds. Lights flash, music plays, digital animations explode across the screen, and numbers roll up on your credit meter. Your brain registers all of these signals as a win. You feel that little dopamine hit that comes with winning. But here's the reality that former employees want you to understand. That spin you just made paid you $3. You bet $5 and got back $3, which means you actually lost $2 on that spin. But the machine celebrated it like you won. Now, according to former slot technicians, this loss disguised as wins programming exists across all denominations. The code is identical whether you're playing pennies, nickels, quarters, or dollars. But here's why it's devastatingly worse at the dollar level. When you're playing penny slots and you bet 50 cents and win back 30 cents, you lose 20 cents. That feels relatively minor at the moment. Your brain might even dismiss it as essentially breaking even. But when you're playing dollar denominations and you bet $5 and win back $3, you just lost $2 in a single spin. The machine celebrated exactly the same way, with the same sounds and lights and animations, but the actual monetary damage was 10 times greater. And this happens over and over again throughout your playing session. Let me tell you about a specific machine where former employees say this problem is particularly severe. Buffalo Stampede at the dollar denomination. According to reports from former slot technicians, approximately 40% of the winning combinations on Buffalo Stampede pay less than the amount wagered. 40%. That means that nearly half of the time the machine celebrates and makes you feel like you've won something. You've actually lost money on that spin. And here's what makes this so insidious, according to internal data. Players don't notice because they're watching their credits, not their actual dollar amounts. When you're playing at $5 per spin and the credit either shows you won 12 credits, your brain processes that as a win. But 12 credits at the dollar level is only 60 cents per credit, which means you won $6. You bet $5, won $6, so you'd netted $1. That actually is a win, but it's such a small win that it barely moves your bankroll. And in between these tiny wins are all those losses disguised as wins, where you bet $5 and get back $3, or bet $5 and got back $2.50. Former employees report that this is entirely intentional design. The machines are programmed to trigger celebration responses in your brain, even when you're losing money, because those celebration sounds and visual effects keep you playing longer. Every time the machine lights up and makes noise, your brain gets a small reward signal, and that signal keeps you engaged with the machine even as your bankroll steadily decreases. The technical term for this in the industry is reinforcement scheduling, and according to former slot programmers, it's one of the most effective tools casinos have for keeping players in their seats. Let me tell you about Jennifer. Jennifer played dollar denomination Buffalo Stampede for 4 hours one Saturday afternoon. She started with $800. Throughout those 4 hours, she hit multiple bonuses. She saw the reels light up hundreds of times. She heard the celebration music constantly. At the end of the session, she genuinely believed she'd more or less broken even because the machine had seemed to pay out so frequently. She remembered hitting bonuses. She remembered seeing wins. And the frequency of those celebration sounds had convinced her brain that she was doing okay. But when she checked her player's card tracking at the end of the night, the reality was devastating. She'd lost $1,200. She'd put in $800, gone to the ATM twice for $200 each, and left with nothing. The machine had celebrated her losses for 4 straight hours, and her brain had interpreted all those signals as winning, or at least as not losing significantly. Before I reveal the third thing about dollar spins that casinos don't want you to know, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button. And let me know in the comments, do you usually play penny slots or dollar slots? This next one is something that even experienced players don't realize, and it has to do with how bonus features actually work across different denominations. Here's what you need to understand about bonus triggers. According to programming documentation reviewed by former slot technicians, bonus trigger frequency is determined by random number generator probability, not by the size of your bet. When a machine is programmed to trigger its bonus feature on average once every 120 spins, that frequency doesn't change whether you're betting 50 cents or $5. The machine doesn't care how much money you're wagering. The underlying mathematics of the game remain identical. So let's walk through what this means in practical terms. Imagine you're playing a machine at the penny denomination. Betting 50 cents per spin, the bonus triggers on average every 120 spins. That means you need to play through approximately 120 spins to see a bonus, which costs you about $60 in total wagers. Now imagine the exact same machine at the dollar denomination betting $5 per spin. The bonus still triggers on average every 120 spins because the programming hasn't changed. But now those 120 spins cost you $600. You're spending 10 times more money to trigger the exact same bonus feature. Now here's where casinos will tell you this makes sense. They'll say that the bonus payout scales up proportionally with your bet size. So a bigger bet means a bigger bonus. And technically, that part is true. If the bonus pays 50 times your bet on average, then a 50-cent player gets $25, while a $5 player gets $250. The bonus amount is bigger. But here's what former technicians want you to understand about mathematics. That scaling isn't proportional to your cost. The penny player spent $60 to win a $25 bonus, losing $35 net. The dollar player spent $600 to win a $250 bonus, losing $350 net. You're losing 10 times more money for essentially the same gaming experience. Take 88 fortunes at the dollar denomination. Former technicians report that the bonus feature on this machine triggers approximately once every 100 to 150 spins. For a penny player betting 50 cents per spin, reaching that bonus costs somewhere between $50 and $75. For a dollar player betting $5 per spin, reaching that same bonus costs between $500 and $750. And when that bonus hits, yes, the dollar player wins more in absolute terms. The bonus might pay $250 instead of $25. But proportionally, both players just spent their money to receive a bonus that doesn't come close to covering what they wagered to get there. The difference is that the dollar player just lost $350, while the penny player lost $35, and they both got the exact same entertainment value, the exact same thrill of triggering and playing through a bonus round. This is the mathematics that casinos don't want you thinking about. They want you focused on the absolute dollar amount of the bonus you won. They want you thinking, wow, I just won $250, without considering that you spent $600 to get there. Your brain naturally focuses on the win amount because that's what the machine celebrates and displays prominently. But according to former employees, if players actually calculated their cost per bonus and compared it to their average bonus win, the vast majority would immediately realize they're playing a losing game that simply extracts their money at different speeds, depending on denomination. And if you think that's bad, wait until you hear about what happens with progressive jackpots at the dollar level. This next revelation is something that a former slot director said made him feel guilty when he saw players who didn't understand it. Here's a story I mentioned earlier about what made a former slot director feel guilty. Most dollar denomination progressive jackpot machines require maximum bet to qualify for the actual progressive jackpot. And this is where thousands of players make a mistake that costs them life-changing amounts of money. Robert had been playing Wheel of Fortune at the dollar denomination for 8 months. He'd go to his local casino every Friday after work and play for a few hours. He loved watching that progressive meter climb, seeing those numbers tick upward, knowing that at any moment he could hit the spin that changed everything. Robert played $3 per spin because that felt manageable for his budget. He could play for several hours for $300, and he genuinely enjoyed the experience. He'd hit bonuses, he'd see some wins, and he felt like he was in the running for that big progressive jackpot that was sitting at just over $40,000. Then one Friday evening in March, it happened. The wheel appeared on his screen. The bonus triggered. Robert's heart was racing as he pressed the button to spin the wheel, watching it tick past the various prizes, and then it landed on the progressive jackpot position. For about 3 seconds, Robert experienced what he later described as the greatest joy of his entire life. He'd hit it. After 8 months of playing, after hundreds of hours at that machine, he'd finally hit the progressive jackpot. But then the number appeared on his screen, $1,200, not $40,000, $1,200. Robert sat there staring at the screen, completely confused, trying to understand what had just happened. When the slot attendant came over to process his payout, Robert asked where the rest of his money was. That's when he learned the truth. The progressive jackpot required a maximum bet of $5 per spin. Robert had been playing at $3 per spin. He was never eligible for the progressive jackpot. Not ever. Not in 8 months of playing. According to the floor manager who was present that evening, Robert broke down crying right there at the machine. Here's what makes this so devastating, according to internal documentation from former employees. The progressive meter is displayed prominently on these machines, regardless of whether you're betting enough to qualify for it. When you sit down at Wheel of Fortune and play at $3 per spin, that $40,000 progressive number is sitting right there at the top of the screen. Nothing tells you that you can't win it. Nothing flashes a warning that says you're not eligible. The machine accepts your money, spin after spin, hour after hour, while you chase a jackpot that you are mathematically unable to win. And this is completely legal. The rules are available if you dig into the help screens or read the tiny print somewhere on the machine glass. But the progressive meter itself, that big bright number that draws your attention and keeps you playing, that's visible to everyone whether they qualify or not. Former employees report that this happens constantly. Based on industry data, approximately 35% of players on progressive jackpot machines are not playing maximum bet, which means they're not qualified for the progressive. They're sitting there, sometimes for hours, sometimes coming back week after week, chasing something they cannot win. One former slot attendant estimated that she personally witnessed this mistake 3 to 4 times per week at her casino. Players would hit the jackpot trigger, experience that moment of absolute elation, and then have their hearts broken when they realized they'd been playing incorrectly the entire time. And here's what former employees say about why casinos allow this to happen. The progressive meter is advertising. It works exactly like a billboard. It attracts players to the machine. Those big numbers draw attention. People see $40,000 and they want to play. The casino makes more money from players who aren't playing max bet and chasing a progressive they can't win than they would make if those players either played correctly or chose a different machine. According to insider reports, this is a feature of the business model, not a bug. Think about the cruel irony of this situation. These are often the same players who moved up to dollar denomination because someone told them higher denominations offered better odds. Now they're playing dollar machines, but they're playing below maximum bet because they're trying to manage their bankroll and make their money last longer. And in doing so, they've disqualified themselves from the only feature that might actually justify playing at that denomination in the first place. They're getting the worst of both worlds. Higher denomination with its faster bankroll depletion, but without any chance at the life-changing jackpot that the denomination theoretically offers. But even if you're playing maximum bet and you're properly qualified for progressives, there's something else about dollar denomination machines that former employees desperately want players to understand. It has to do with volatility, and when you understand how volatility multiplication works at higher denominations, you'll see why so many former slot technicians say they would never play dollar machines themselves. Volatility refers to how a machine pays out over time. High volatility means long stretches of losses punctuated by occasional large wins. Low volatility means more frequent small wins with fewer big jackpots. And here's the critical part that former slot programmers want you to understand. Volatility is built into the game of mathematics. It doesn't change based on your denomination. A high volatility game is high volatility whether you're betting 50 cents or $5. The pattern of wins and losses stays the same, but the real-world impact multiplies dramatically. Consider a high volatility machine that averages a 200-spin losing streak between significant wins. For a penny player betting 50 cents per spin, those 200 spins represent $100 in losses during that streak. That's painful, certainly, but for many recreational players, it's survivable. But that same 200-spin losing streak for a dollar player betting $5 per spin represents $1,000 in losses. Same exact game mathematics, same volatility pattern, but 10 times the financial damage. You're experiencing the identical statistical distribution of outcomes, just with devastatingly higher stakes. Lightning Link at the dollar denomination is a perfect example, according to internal data reviewed by former employees. Lightning Link is a high volatility game. The average losing streak between bonus triggers runs somewhere between 180 and 250 spins. Former employees report regularly seeing players lose $800 to $1,500 between bonuses on this machine at the dollar level. And when the bonus finally hits, the average payout at dollar denomination is somewhere between $200 and $400. The mathematics simply don't work in your favor. You're bleeding money through these long, volatile stretches, and the occasional bonus hit doesn't come close to recovering what you've lost. Patricia learned this the hard way. She was an elderly woman who played dollar denomination Lightning Link one Thursday afternoon. According to the slot attendant who witnessed the session, Patricia went through $2,000 in 90 minutes. She hit two bonuses during that time. The first paid $280. The second paid $370. Total bonus wins of $650. But she'd wagered $2,000 to get there, leaving her with a net loss of $1,350. When she finally left the machine, she told the attendant that she'd chosen to play higher denomination because she'd read online that it pays better. She genuinely believed she was making a smart strategic decision by playing dollars instead of pennies. She had no idea that she was simply experiencing the same high volatility game mathematics with catastrophically higher financial consequences. And here's the factor that former employees say makes this even more psychologically damaging. High volatility creates excitement. Those long losing streaks build tension, and when the bonus finally hits, the relief and excitement are genuine. That's actually why high volatility games are popular. They create an emotional roller coaster that many gamblers find thrilling. But at the dollar denomination level, that emotional roller coaster comes with real financial devastation. According to industry insiders, volatility information isn't readily available to players. You can't sit down at a machine and see a label that tells you whether it's high or low volatility. Most players have absolutely no idea what they're getting into until they have already lost significant money. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what if I just play fewer spins at the dollar level? What if I limit my time to compensate for the higher denomination? That's actually what we need to talk about next, and what former casino managers say about this strategy is going to shock you. The strategy of playing fewer spins at higher denomination seems logical on the surface. And according to player surveys conducted by casino research firms, approximately 40% of dollar denomination players use exactly this approach. The thinking goes like this: I'll play dollar slots, but instead of my usual 2-hour session, I'll only play for 30 minutes. Same total money at risk, bigger individual bets, shorter time commitment. It sounds reasonable. It feels like a smart way to experience the excitement of higher denomination play without the extended financial exposure. But here's what former slot managers want you to understand about how casino reward systems actually work, and why this strategy backfires in ways most players never realize. Casino players' club systems calculate rewards based on 3 primary factors: your denomination, your time at the machine, and your theoretical loss. And according to former casino managers, the time component weighs far more heavily than most players understand. The system doesn't primarily care how much you've wagered in total. It cares how long you've been sitting at that machine, cycling money through it. A penny player who sits at a machine for 2 hours betting 50 cents per spin and running through 600 total spins has wagered $300. That player gets rated in the system for 2 full hours of play. A dollar player who sits at the same type of machine for 30 minutes betting $5 per spin and running through 150 spins has wagered $750. That's 2.5 times more money wagered. But that dollar player only gets rated for 30 minutes of play. Here's where mathematics gets truly problematic. The comp calculation systems used by most casinos heavily weigh time on device. The penny player who wagered $300 over 2 hours might receive $30 in free play based on their theoretical loss in time played. The dollar player who wagered $750 over 30 minutes might receive only $15 to $20 in free play. Despite putting significantly more money at risk and experiencing a higher theoretical loss, the dollar player receives fewer comps because the time factor is weighted so heavily in the algorithm. According to internal casino documents reviewed by former managers, this weighting is entirely deliberate. Casinos want both high denomination and long playing time. A player who gives them high denomination but short sessions is actually less valuable to the casino's long-term revenue than a penny player who sits for hours, and the comp system reflects this calculation. Let's break down the actual expected loss mathematics to understand why this matters so much. That penny player wagering $300 at 12% house edge expects to lose about $36. They receive $30 in comps. Their net cost of entertainment is roughly $6 when you factor in the comp value. That dollar player wagering $750 at the same 12% house edge expects to lose about $90. They receive perhaps $15 in comps. Their net cost of entertainment is $75. The dollar player paid more than 12 times as much for essentially the same experience, the same amount of time in the casino, the same entertainment value. And on top of that higher cost, they received inferior rewards from the Players Club system. Former casino hosts report that this dynamic is rarely explained to players. When someone asks about the benefits of playing higher denominations, hosts are trained to emphasize the higher comp earning rate per dollar wagered. What they don't mention is that the time component dramatically affects the actual comp value you'll receive. Several former employees describe this as the sucker's strategy. You're paying premium price for discount rewards. You're experiencing higher losses with lower compensation. And the casino is essentially getting exactly what it wants from you: maximum revenue extraction with minimum comp liability. Managers say they witness constantly. It has to do with decision-making under pressure and how rapidly losing money affects your psychological state. We recreational gamblers arrive at a casino with a predetermined bankroll. It might be $200, $500, $1,000. And according to gambling behavior research cited by former casino managers, players typically continue playing until one of two things happens. They run out of time or they run out of money. Whichever comes first ends the session. Here's what former managers observed happening with dollar denomination players versus penny players. A penny player that with a $500 bankroll betting 50 cents per spin can play approximately 1,000 spins before going broke, assuming they win nothing back. At 10 spins per minute, that's about 100 minutes of playtime. During those 100 minutes, based on typical game volatility, they'll likely hit 3 to 5 bonus features. They'll experience some wins. They'll have stretches of losses. The psychological experience is one of extended play with mixed results leading to gradual bankroll depletion. When they finally reach the point of being broke, they've had what feels like a complete gambling session. That same $500 bankroll for a dollar denomination player betting $5 per spin lasts approximately 100 spins before complete depletion. At the same 10 spins per minute rate, that's 10 minutes of play. In 10 minutes, depending on the machine's volatility, they might not hit a single bonus feature. They might experience nothing but losses. The psychological experience is one of rapid, devastating, frustrating depletion with no satisfying gameplay moments. And here's the critical part that industry data suggests. Approximately 70% of players who lose their bankroll quickly will visit the ATM for additional funds. The dollar denomination player hits this critical decision point after just 10 minutes. The penny player might play their entire intended session without ever facing this temptation. David's story illustrates exactly how this plays out in real situations. David came to the casino one Saturday evening with a $600 bankroll. He'd decided to try dollar denomination Mighty Cash because he'd heard from another player that it paid better than the penny version. He sat down, started playing at $5 per spin, and within 15 minutes, his entire $600 was gone. He hadn't hit the hold and spin feature even once. He'd seen nothing but losing spins and a few small wins that barely made a dent in his losses. At that moment, David faced a decision. He could leave, accept the loss, and go home. Or he could go to the ATM and continue playing, believing that a bonus had to be coming soon. David went to the ATM. He withdrew $300, went back to the machine, and lost that money in another 8 minutes. He went back to the eighth, another $300, gone in 12 minutes when he finally hit a hold and spin that paid $180. That small win convinced him he was on the right track. Back to the ATM for another $300. 90 minutes after sitting down at that machine, David had made 4 separate ATM withdrawals totaling $1,200. Combined with his original $600 bankroll, he'd lost $1,800. The slot attendant who witnessed the entire session later reported that David kept repeating the same phrase, "Just one more bonus." Former employees say this is the exact scenario that casinos profit from most. Rapid bankroll depletion leading to emotional decision-making, leading to multiple ATM visits. And according to internal reports reviewed by former managers, rapid bankroll depletion actually increases total customer loss. Players go into chase mode faster. They make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. They convince themselves that the next bonus will recover everything they've lost. So they keep feeding money into machines long past the point where they would have stopped if they were thinking clearly. This is exactly what casinos want, not rational, controlled play sessions with predetermined loss limits. They want emotional decisions driven by the psychological pressure of rapid losses. And dollar denomination machines with their accelerated bankroll depletion create this scenario far more effectively than penny machines ever could. But here's what might be the most disturbing revelation of all. Former casino consultants say there's a specific type of player that casinos actively target for dollar denomination play. And when you hear who these players are, you'll understand why several employees said this practice made them want to quit their jobs entirely. The uncomfortable truth about who casinos target for dollar denomination play comes from multiple former casino marketing directors who reviewed internal player segmentation data, and what they revealed is something that made several of them deeply uncomfortable during their tenure. According to these former directors, casinos don't randomly encourage players to increase their denomination. They use sophisticated tracking systems and data analysis to identify specific player profiles, and then they systematically target those profiles with messaging designed to move them toward higher denomination play. This isn't speculation or conspiracy theory. This is a documented marketing strategy based on player tracking data that every major casino system collects and analyzes. Target profile number 1 is retirees with fixed income. Internal marketing documents reviewed by former directors show that casinos specifically track when Social Security deposits hit player accounts. Many regular casino customers use their players' club cards to cash checks directly at the casino cage, which means the casino knows exactly when that monthly income arrives. Former marketing directors report that promotional mailers advertising dollar denomination games and special high denomination tournaments are timed to arrive within days of those Social Security deposit dates. The strategy is explicit in internal documents. Reach these players when they have fresh money available and encourage them to play higher denominations while their accounts are full. Former hosts report being specifically trained to approach players in this demographic and suggest moving up in denomination. The phrasing they were taught included lines like, "Now that you're playing regularly, you might want to consider dollar machines for better winning potential." One former host described the training as teaching us how to convince retired people to gamble away their fixed income faster. The reasoning documented in internal casino strategy meetings was shockingly blunt, according to former attendees. These players are going to gamble regardless. They come to the casino as their primary entertainment and social activity. The goal is to maximize revenue per visit, which means encouraging higher denomination play. Multiple former employees reported that during strategy meetings, Managers would explicitly state that if their casino didn't get this money, a competing casino would, so they might as well capture it. The ethical implications of targeting elderly people on fixed incomes for higher-risk gambling went largely unaddressed in these meetings, according to former participants. Target profile number 2 is players on winning streaks. Casino tracking systems automatically flag any player who hits a significant win above a certain threshold, typically around $1,200 or more. Former hosts report that they would receive notifications on their mobile devices the moment a track player hit a jackpot or hand pay. They were then instructed to immediately locate that player, congratulate them personally, and make a specific suggestion. Take advantage of your hot streak by moving up to dollar denomination, where the wins are even bigger. One former host called this the predatory suggestion because the host knows, and the casino definitely knows, that hot streaks are entirely random and temporary. There's no such thing as a machine or a player being hot. It's statistical noise. But the suggestion preys on the gambler's fallacy, the belief that winning begets more winning, and it encourages players to increase their risk exposure at precisely the moment when they're psychologically most vulnerable to making emotional decisions. But target profile number 3 is perhaps the most disturbing, according to former marketing employees. Casinos track what they internally call windfall events. These include lawsuit settlements, insurance payouts, tax refunds, inheritance receipts, or any other large sum of money that a player suddenly receives. How do they track this? Players who cash large checks at the casino cage are automatically flagged in the system. Former employees report that within days of cashing a significant check, sometimes within 24 hours, these players receive personalized VIP invitations. These invitations promote high-denomination play, private gambling areas, and enhanced comp benefits for dollar denomination machines. The marketing message is carefully crafted to make the player feel special and important, while simultaneously encouraging them to gamble larger amounts than they normally would. Margaret's story, as told by the floor manager who later quit over this exact practice, illustrates how devastating this targeting can be. Margaret was a 68-year-old widow who received a $50,000 life insurance payout after her husband passed away. She came to the casino where she'd been a regular penny slot player for years, and she cashed the check at the casino cage because it was convenient and she trusted the establishment. Within 2 days, Margaret received a phone call from a casino host she'd never heard from before. The host expressed condolences about her husband, then invited her to a special VIP event for preferred players. At this event, the host personally suggested that given her recent financial situation, she might enjoy the excitement of dollar denomination play. The host characterized it as appropriate for her bankroll, suggesting that $50,000 was enough that she could afford to play at a level where the real wins happen. Over the next 3 months, according to the floor manager who tracked her play, Margaret lost $40,000. Almost all of it was lost on dollar denomination machines that she'd been encouraged to play. The floor manager stated that watching this happen, knowing it was the result of deliberate targeting of the grieving widow, was what finally made him leave the casino industry entirely. Former marketing directors report that when these targeting practices were questioned in management meetings, the response was always the same. It's legal. We're not forcing anyone to gamble. We're simply offering appropriate gaming options to players based on their apparent bankroll size. If we don't provide them these opportunities, they'll find them at another casino, but multiple former employees describe an underlying acknowledgement that these practices specifically targeted vulnerable populations or exploited temporary circumstances. One former director stated that everyone in those meetings knew exactly what we were doing. We just used corporate language to avoid saying it directly. The loyalty program structure represents the final piece of this targeting system, according to former Players Club managers. Tier systems are explicitly designed to encourage denomination increases. The points required to reach higher tiers are calculated in a way that makes dollar denomination pool play appear more efficient. A typical system might award 1 point per $5 wagered on penny slots, but 1 point per $3 wagered on dollar slots. To reach gold tier status requiring 10,000 points, A penny player needs to wager $50,000 while a dollar player needs to wager only $30,000. This looks like better value. But here's what former managers want players to understand about mathematics. At 88% RTP, the penny player expects to lose $6,000 to reach the gold tier. The dollar player expects to lose $3,600. So yes, the dollar player saves $2,400 in expected losses. But the gold tier benefits might be worth only $1,000 annually in actual value. You spent $30,000 chasing a benefit worth $1,000 while losing $3,600. The mathematics only makes sense if you are planning to lose that money regardless. And according to former players' club directors, the tier system creates artificial goals that drive spending decisions. Players think they're earning something. Actually, they're just losing money faster while chasing rewards that don't justify the cost. One former director called it the gamification of losses. We turn losing money into an achievement system. So here's the question you're probably asking yourself right now. Should you absolutely never play dollar spins under any circumstances? That's not quite what I'm saying. And this is where we need to have an honest conversation about the rare scenarios where dollar denomination might actually make sense for a very specific type of player. Former casino hosts who've worked with thousands of customers over decades say there is a player profile where dollar denomination play can be strategically justified, but the critical word here is rare. According to their estimates, fewer than 5% of dollar denomination players actually fit this profile. The first scenario involves players with very large bankrolls combined with the specific goal of comp optimization. The prerequisites here are extremely narrow according to former hosts. You need a gambling bankroll of at least $10,000 that's completely separate from your living expenses, money you can afford to lose without any impact on your financial life. Your primary goal needs to be comp accumulation rather than winning money. You need to understand and accept that you're essentially buying comps with expected losses, treating the theoretical loss as the price of entertainment plus benefits. And you need to be playing consistently for 4 or more hours per session. According to former casino managers, in this very specific case, the mathematics work differently than they do for typical recreational players. You're making a conscious decision to accept gambling losses as the cost of acquiring casino comps and benefits. The faster comp accumulation at dollar denomination can justify the higher denomination if you're going to be playing that volume anyway. But former employees emphasize that less than 5% of the dollar denomination players they encountered actually fit this profile. The vast majority were recreational players with limited bankrolls who mistakenly believed higher denomination offered better odds. The second scenario involves players who specifically prefer intensity over duration. Some players, according to gambling behavior researchers, genuinely would rather play dollar spins for 1 hour than penny spins for 10 hours. They want concentrated excitement rather than extended session time. Former slot managers say this preference is only valid if several critical conditions are met. You must strictly limit your session time and stick to that limit no matter what happens. You must accept that your entire bankroll might be lost and be genuinely comfortable with that outcome before you sit down. You absolutely cannot go to the ATM when your predetermined bankroll is depleted, and you must understand that you're paying a premium price for concentrated entertainment rather than trying to make money. According to former managers, fewer than 10% of players demonstrate this kind of discipline. Most players who claim they'll stop after 30 minutes end up playing for 2 hours. Most players who say they won't visit the ATM do exactly that the moment they go broke. The reality is that very few people have the psychological control to play this way consistently. For the remaining 85 to 90% of players, according to industry insiders, there is no scenario where dollar spins are optimal. Most players are seeking to make money rather than just seeking entertainment. Most players are working with limited bankrolls of a few $100s. Most players are unable to resist the temptation to visit the ATM when they lose their initial bankroll quickly. And most players still believe the fundamental myth that higher denomination equals better odds. If you fit this profile, and statistically you almost certainly do, dollar spins are costing you significant money compared to lower denomination alternatives. So what should you do instead? Based on everything we've learned from former casino employees, Here's the actionable alternative strategy. Stick to penny or nickel denominations exclusively. The same games are available at these denominations. The RTP is typically identical or very similar. Your bankroll lasts 10 to 20 times longer. You'll trigger more bonuses per session simply because you're playing more spins. And the overall psychological experience is more positive because you're not experiencing rapid, devastating losses. If you absolutely must play higher denomination, quarter denomination should be your maximum, never dollar. Before playing any higher denomination, verify that the RTP is actually better by asking a slot attendant for PTR sheet information. If a progressive jackpot is involved, always play maximum bet or don't play that machine at all. Set strict time limits and loss limits before you start playing and actually honor them. Former employees suggest 30 minutes maximum for quarter denomination sessions, specifically because longer sessions at higher denominations almost inevitably lead to significant losses. Understand the comp mathematics before you chase players' club tiers. Ask the player's club desk for the Iraq comp earn rate per dollar wagered at different denominations. Calculate your expected loss to reach the next tier level by multiplying your required wagering by the house edge percentage. Then honestly compare whether $3,000 in expected losses is actually worth $500 in comp benefits. According to former casino hosts, 90% of players who actually do this mathematical calculation stop chasing tier status immediately because the numbers simply don't justify the behavior. Use loss per hour as your primary metric for evaluating gambling decisions. Penny slots at 50 cents per spin create an expected loss of approximately $36 per hour, assuming an 88% RTP. Dollar slots at $5 per spin create an expected loss of approximately $360 per hour at the same RTP. Former casino managers say if players truly understood this number and focused on it, 70% would immediately change their playing strategy. Industry insiders want you focused on denomination and jackpots and excitement. They specifically don't want you calculating loss per hour because when you see $360 per hour in expected losses, the decision becomes obvious for most people. So remember, dollar spins don't give you better odds. They just make you lose the same bad odds 10 times faster. Millions of players don't know this because casinos actively promote the denomination myth through floor managers, hosts, and marketing materials. Former employees say this is the single most profitable misconception in the entire industry. Now you know what casinos don't want you knowing. You're now part of the small percentage of players who understand the real mathematics behind denomination selection. Use this information to protect your bankroll and make informed decisions. If this video helped you understand something about dollar spins you didn't know before, make sure you are subscribed. Drop a comment and let me know. Have you been playing dollar spins thinking they offered better odds? And check out my next video where I reveal the specific machines where denomination actually does matter. You're going to be shocked at what former slot technicians say about these particular games. One more thing before you go. There's a specific promotion that casinos run for dollar denomination players that former marketing directors call the most predatory offer in the gambling industry. I'm breaking that down in my next video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it because what you learn might save you thousands of dollars on your next casino visit.